Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing great and I hope you are enjoying your Sunday just like I'm doing it. Okay, so a very happy Sunday first of all to all of you, and let's make something really productive out of this Sunday, and let's promise ourselves that we are not going to commit ourselves to any job where we have to work on Saturday or on Sunday. So you must learn how to enjoy your weekend. But having said that, we need to make sure that Monday, 5th September 2022 will be a winning day for all of us. And yes, we can do it. It's a doable job. It's not a mission impossible. And you are not Tom Cruise either. So if we have to make Monday, 5th September 2022 a successful day, we have to grasp another major topic of the AA syllabus, which is called internal control system. But before we move on to that, let me remind you a few things from the yesterday's that is the day one of this ACCA Practice to Pass webinar. The day one was extremely important because of two reasons. A, I made you understand why students all over the world are failing this exam so much, why in my part of the world the failure rate is significantly so high. Secondly, we went down into the major topic number one, which is called audit risk, and we explored and we identified what the examiner requirements looks like, what kind of questions can we expect from the audit risk, and we even went through a couple of past paper questions, the most recent past paper questions. One was from 2021 and one was the most latest and the recent past paper question from the 2022 exam. Now I believe and I'm assuming and I'm hoping and I'm praying that right now you are one of those students who are already done with those two past paper questions at least once, ideally speaking twice, but using the ACCA's practice platform. So if you're one of them, you are here for a wonderful journey for the next 2-3 hours, and that journey will ensure that you are comfortable with respect to the second major topic of the AA, which is called internal control systems. Okay, on your screen right now is my WhatsApp number. You can contact me and I can add you up in the WhatsApp group for this September 2022 exam. What you should expect in the WhatsApp group: number one, within the WhatsApp group description, you will be able to figure out the relevant questions from the webinar, the notes, the exam kit, and any important thing which is required for your preparation. Moreover, that WhatsApp group will continue till the exam. Some kind of support will definitely be there. I will share few selective questions, important notes, and maybe the planner for the rest of the 10 to 12 days which are remaining in your exam. Okay, so let's skip this all, and we all know there are two sections in the exam format. The section A is the one which is the real pain for the students. Why section A is such a pain all over the world? Because students are not paying due respect to section A. It's not that the section A is going to be mighty difficult. Yes, the section A is going to be mighty difficult for those who are not investing quality time on section A. There will be 3 questions within the section B. The 3 questions will be one of the question will be on audit risk, one of the question will be on the internal control systems, and one of the question will focus on the substantive procedures. Okay, we have got 7 areas in the syllabus, the 3 major areas and the 4 minor areas. Yesterday we covered one of the major area. Today we are going to cover another major area. Tomorrow we are going to cover the third and the final major area, and the fourth and the final day would be about those 4 minor areas. So we covered audit risk yesterday, and today we are going to cover internal control systems. But before we move on to that, let's quickly remind ourselves that among the skill level papers, this exam is currently the most challenging one. You can see it that the 39, 38, You okay, fine, 44, but again back to the 39. All this reflects that this exam is a really challenging one for the students all over the world. And if it is on an average, if the pass rate is 40% globally, trust me, within the subcontinent, the pass rate is well below 30%, because the English language creates an extraordinary barrier for the success. Why students are failing this exam so much? Now quickly, let's invest 5 minutes on that. So the poor typing speed and lack of familiarity with the ACCA practice platform, but you can counter that. Solve at least 3 questions per day, 130 to 20 marks each, and solve them on the ACCA practice platform. Okay, fine, consult the solution, but do whatever you want to and type whatever you want to, but strictly on the ACCA's practice platform. If you are going to do it for the next 10 to 12 days, your problem number 1 will be resolved. Poor score in section A. So all over the world, all over the places, the students are not scoring good enough marks in section A. Yes, you can counter that. How can you counter that? Solve both kits, the Kaplan and the PPP, with the help of consultation, and ideally speaking, you should solve the kits with respect to section A twice, but if not twice, at least once with the help of solution. Consult the solution. You should be familiar and you should be clear why option number 1 is wrong, why option number 2 is correct. So you should be that clear. So why students are failing this exam? The reason number 3 is students are unable to answer the straightforward bookish knowledge questions. How can you overcome that problem? Well, you can overcome that problem by investing half an hour daily on your straightforward bookish knowledge type questions. Well, you have got 12-13 days in your exam. You have got 12-13 days. You have got 12-13 chapters. Divide your chapters, invest half an hour or maximum 1 hour daily on the bookish knowledge based questions, and you will be able to score reasonable or good enough marks. So your problem number 3 will be resolved as well. Yes, there is an exam technique for all 3 major areas, and we did cover the major the technical areas with respect to the first major area. So if you have attended the yesterday's webinar, you're not in a problem with respect to audit risk. If you are going to attend today's webinar, automatically the problems with respect to the second major area will be resolved. So basically, the 4th problem is not a problem for you. Do not ignore minor areas during your exam preparation. Well, I will certainly not going to ignore the minor areas. That is why I've allocated the full 4th day to all the minor areas. And yes, we will be solving questions relevant to the minor areas as well. Last but surely not the least, you should attempt 3 mock exams on the ACCA practice platform, and at least 1 mock exam should be marked by an expert AA tutor. So you got to make sure you are attempting the mock exam pretty soon. Okay, the plan is a simple and a straightforward one. We covered audit risk yesterday. We are supposed to cover internal control systems today. We will explore substantive procedures tomorrow, and the fourth and the final day would be about the minor topics. So this is the plan, and let's stick to the plan. And if we have to stick to the plan, it's time to go to the second major topic, which is called here we go then. Second major topic, which is called internal control systems. Okay, here you go. So before I move on to this major topic number 2, if you did not attend the yesterday's webinar, still today's lecture is going to be a brand new lecture for you. Today's lecture has got nothing to do with the yesterday's lecture. So attend this class with energy, be optimistic, do not think about the yesterday's class. If you missed it, you missed it. Don't worry. You'll get the recorded lecture. You'll get the link of it. I will share the link of the yesterday's webinar within your WhatsApp group. So don't worry. Somehow or the other, you will figure it out. As of now, as things stand, you need to attend the today's lecture. And before you come up and before you show up for the tomorrow's class, whatever I'm going to assign you today as a homework, you should finish it before the day 3 of the webinar. So this is as simple as it could be. So internal control systems, the major topic number 2. Let's start the show. Okay. There are 6 internal control systems in the AA syllabus. 6. Now, before I move on to those 6 internal control systems, I need to make you understand what do I mean by internal and what do I mean by control systems. Now, internal means that whatever I'm going to tell you would be designed and implemented by the management. So internal means it is going to be something designed and implemented by the management itself. So the control systems, which are called internal control systems, are never designed and never implemented by the external auditor. Internal means they are going to be designed and implemented by the board of directors, by the management itself. If somebody is wondering, okay, fine, external auditor is not going to design and implement it, what about internal auditor? Even the internal auditor would not design and implement this. Well, and yes, the internal auditor would monitor it. The internal auditor would try to improve it. The internal auditor would keep an eye on it. But the design and the implementation, it's the responsibility or it's the job of the management. So that's what internal means over here. Let's go to the stage 2, internal. Okay, we are done with internal. What do I mean by control systems? Control systems means a set of policies and procedures. Control system means rules and regulations. Control system means a list of do's and a list of don'ts. So control system is not a tangible system. It's about the policies and procedures. It's about the rules and regulations which would be designed and implemented by the management just to make sure that they could achieve their objectives easily. Internal control systems are designed and implemented by the management in order to make sure they could avoid the risk of frauds and error. Internal control systems are designed and implemented by the management in order to make sure they could achieve their objectives, in order to make sure that the business is running as smoothly and as efficiently and as effectively as it could be. So I hope all of you are clear what internal control systems are or what internal control system means. Now in our syllabus, according to the ACCA study guide, we have got 6 internal control systems. Number 1, the sales system. Number 2, the opposite of sales system, it's what we call purchase system. The interconnected sales and purchase system connected system is called inventory system. Number 4, a complicated system, it's what we call payroll system. Number 5, non-current asset system. Last but surely not the least, the bank and the cash system. Dear students, if you could understand any one system from your tutor, let it be me, well, I can promise you that you can solve and you can grasp and you can be the master of all 6 systems. Mark my words. But there is a very strict condition attached to this rule. Well, what's the rule? If you could understand one system, you are good to go for all of the systems. But there is a very strict condition. And the condition is you got to understand the exam requirements first, because there are multiple exam requirements when it comes to this major topic number 2. There is a condition, and the condition is you got to understand the marking scheme. You got to understand what to write and what should be avoided, how to explain the deficiency, how to explain the direct control, how to write the recommendation, how to come up with test of control. So if you know the exam requirements pretty well, and if you know how to attempt those things, if you know how to extract the data out of the question, well, I would repeat it once more. If you are good at one system, you are good to go for all of the systems. So let's start with the exam requirements with the assumption that if we could understand the exam requirements and if we could understand how to attempt them, we just need one damn system. Okay, what about the exam requirements? The most common exam requirement which all of you are going to face in your final exam is identify and explain, let's say, 8 deficiencies in the company's system. Now, what do I mean by deficiencies? Well, as a management, I have designed and implemented a system called, let's say, payroll system. As an external auditor or as an internal auditor, you would go through that system and you would try to identify and then definitely explain that what deficiencies are there within the system. What do I mean by deficiency? Dear students, a control deficiency is something which would lead to a material misstatement in the financial statement. So if the control systems are poor, that leads to a higher control risk. What do I mean by control risk? Control risk means that the control system would not be working efficiently and effectively, and as a result, the financial statements would have material misstatements in it. So you got to identify and explain, let's say, 8 deficiencies within the company's system. Now, once you have identified the deficiency from the question and once you have explained the deficiency in your own words, now try to understand these are 2 different things. You have to identify the deficiency and you have to explain the deficiency. You will identify the deficiency from the question itself. You will use the copy-paste technique which was, revealed to you in the WhatsApp group, and then you have to explain the deficiency. You will identify the deficiency from the question itself, and that will give you half mark, and then you have to explain the deficiency, which I will teach you how to explain, and that will give you another half mark. Once you have identified and explained the deficiency, the examiner would expect that you will come up with a recommendation. Now, what do I mean by recommendation? Recommendation means that in order to overcome that deficiency, you should recommend a good control instead of that poor control. What do I mean by deficiency? Deficiency means a poor control, not a good one. Something having loophole, something having deficiency. How can you overcome that deficiency? Well, I will not design and implement it, but I would just recommend it to the management. It's up to the management whether they would like to implement it or not. So I would recommend something to the management in order to overcome that deficiency. What do I mean by recommendation? Recommendation means instead of that deficiency, instead of that poor control, you will suggest a good control, a solid control. So that's the exam requirement number 1 and exam requirement number 2. Whenever examiner is going to test the exam requirement number 1, it's a short thing. Examiner would definitely test the exam requirement number 2 as well. The answer would be in a tabular form. The table would be given all in the exam. You have to come up with the heading deficiencies, recommendations. Okay, let's go to the exam requirement number 3. Well, what if the examiner gives you the sales system of the organization? An examiner might ask you to identify and explain 5 key controls. also known as good controls, also known as direct controls. Now, what do I mean by direct controls or key controls? Direct control is something which will ensure that the risk of material misstatement would be avoided. So basically, as a matter of fact, it's the opposite of deficiency. So it is something which you as an external auditor would appreciate. It looks promising on paper, so you would appreciate it. So you will identify the key control or the direct control from the question itself, and then you should explain it. And the explanation of the direct control would be exactly opposite to the explanation of deficiency. Well, when I explain the deficiency, I criticize them. Well, I will explain the direct control, I will appreciate them. How are you going to appreciate? How are you going to criticize? That's what I'm going to teach within the next half an hour, so you have to hold on. Once you have identified the key control from the question itself using the copy-paste technique, once you have explained the key control with using your own words, now the examiner will never going to stop here. If the examiner is going to ask the exam requirement number 3, examiner would always ask for the exam requirement number 4 as well. And that is how, as an auditor, you are going to test that key control. Okay, that direct control, that key control looks good on paper, it looks promising, but as an auditor, you need to test that control in order to make sure that yes, the control is literally operating effectively. So as an auditor, you will perform a test. It's called an audit procedure, but what procedure? It's a test of control. So you are going to test the control system in order to make sure that whether the control system is operating effectively or not. So dear students, please understand, examiner could ask you 1 and 2, the exam requirement 1 and 2 as a pair. The examiner could ask you exam requirement 3 and 4 as a pair. Last but surely not the least, one last exam requirement which the examiner could ask. Now listen to me very carefully. Exam requirement option number 1, 1 and 2 as a pair. Exam requirement number 2, option number 2, exam requirement number 3 and 4 as a pair. Last but surely not the least, what if examiner could ask you, you have to identify and explain, let's say 5 deficiencies. You have to provide 5 recommendations in order to address those deficiencies. Now assume those recommendations have been implemented by the client. How are you going to test those recommendations? So the last exam requirement could be not a pair, rather a triplet. Exam requirement number 1, 2 and 4. So is this clear how the examiner could test 1 and 2 as a pair, 3 and 4 as a pair, and then 1, 2 and 4 as a triplet? Are you clear what exam requirements would look like? I just want a confirmation on this one. 1 and 2 as a pair, 3 and 4 as a pair, and 1, 2 and 5 as a triplet. So Brianna Henry is absolutely clear. So as Fatima, Anshara and SNLE. So that's great. It sounds great. Thank you everyone. So these are the 3 possible exam requirements. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, Naila Akhtar has asked, can you please repeat the direct control? Direct control is the exact opposite of the deficiency. Now what's deficiency? Well, deficiency is a poor control. So what's direct control? It's a good control. It's not a bad one, it's a good one. That deficiency leads to material misstatements in the financial statement, while the direct control would avoid the risk of material misstatement within the financial statement. Is this clear to you, Naila, now? Fantastic. That's great. Let's continue. So, dear students, I told you earlier that this topic is a walk in the park for you, provided you are attentive within the next 2-3 hours, provided you will prepare yourself with respect to the homework which I'm going to suggest you. But if that has to happen, you need to understand 2-3 things. Number one, the exam requirements. Number two, the marking scheme. Number two, the marking scheme. And number three, how to attempt those things. So the exam requirement 2 and 3 will be tested in every exam sitting. 2, 3 and 5 could be tested. 4 and 5, oh well, anything could be tested. What about the marking scheme? The marking scheme is not a complicated one. You will identify the deficiency from the question itself. And yes, you can use the copy paste technique, and this will give you half mark. And then the explanation of that deficiency will give you another half mark. Similarly, the recommendation will give you 1 mark. The test of control would give you 1 mark. The identification of the direct control or the key control from the question itself will give you half mark. And the explanation of the key control will give you another half mark. So are you all clear with respect to the marking scheme? Can I have confirmation on that as well? Okay. Mega has asked a question. What is the difference between the recommendation and test of control? When you are recommending, you are suggesting this should be the control which you should implement. And when you are applying the test of control, you want to test whether that control is operating effectively or not. So let me give you an example for that. Let's say when the goods are received within the warehouse, they are not checked for the quality. Now that's a poor control, because that could lead to a situation where you will accept inferior quality goods, leading to the problems in the production, leading to customer complaints. So that's the identification and the explanation of the deficiency. Now what you're going to recommend? There has to be a quality inspector who should evaluate the goods with respect to quality, and maybe on a sample basis, just to make sure we are not accepting any inferior quality goods. Now that's the recommendation. What about test of control? Okay, maybe I would like to visit the warehouse and I would like to observe whether the quality inspector is there and whether he or she is working on the quality of the products before accepting the goods. What's the difference between direct control and test of control? Oh, well, I've already answered it. Direct control is a good control. Test of control means you want to test that good control. We have to use inspect, obtain and review, these type of words. Yes, we have to use these type of words. What is the difference between auditor's response and test of control? Auditor's response is a procedure which could be both in the form of substantive procedure and maybe in the form of test of control. But when it comes to test of control, we are not testing the financial statements. We are strictly focusing on the test of controls. Okay, what is the difference between, can you tell me about test of detail? Well, we'll discuss test of detail tomorrow, because test of detail means the substantive procedures, and substantive procedure is going to be the topic for tomorrow. As of now, I can tell you one thing. All over the world, the auditors have got 2 types of procedures. All over the world, the auditors have got 2 types of procedures. A, test of controls. B, the test of details. When we say test of details, it's about the substantive procedures. It's about the financial statements. So today's topic is about the test of control, and the tomorrow's topic would be about the substantive procedures, which is the second procedure of the auditor, which is focused on the financial statements. Is this clear to everyone, especially Waqar Asghar? So in order to come up with clarity, what's the difference between test of control and the substantive procedure, you need to hang on and you need to be patient, because tomorrow's class will clear all your doubts. Okay, as far as the day one's the availability of the day one's lecture on the YouTube channel, well, it's not there as yet, but once it will be available, I will share it within the WhatsApp group, don't worry. So if you are clear with respect to the exam requirements, and if you are clear with respect to the marking scheme, I think it's time to move on to the most important part of the today's lecture. Now, how many things do I need to teach you? I need to teach you, I think, 6 things. Number 1, how to identify the deficiency. Number 2, how to explain the deficiency. Number 3, how to come up with a recommendation for 1 mark. How to come up with test of control for 1 mark. How to identify the key controls from the question itself. How to explain the key controls. So I think I need to teach you 6 things, right? Let's start with the first one, and that is how to identify the deficiency from the question itself. And yes, you can use the copy paste technique. Number 1, look for the weak segregation of duties. Segregation of duty is an important control. So if the segregation of duty is not being followed pretty well, if there are clear indication that one individual is involved in too many interrelated activities, we call it weak segregation of duty. So if there is weak segregation of duty, consider it as a deficiency. And if there is a strong evidence of segregation of duty, consider it as a direct or a key control, a good control, the opposite of weak segregation of duty. Second, if someone is involved in a particular task and that someone is not senior enough, if that individual is not senior enough, you will consider it as a deficiency. Why? Because maybe that job requires someone to be senior enough, having good enough expertise and knowledge. So what if that individual, is not that senior enough, and as a result, he or she might not have the good enough knowledge or experience to deliver the job? So we will consider it as a deficiency. But if someone is performing a particular job having good enough seniority, we will consider it as a good control. If a particular transaction is not authorized, or maybe the clerk does not require any authorization at all, so we will consider it as a deficiency, because authorization is an important control which reduces the risk of fraud and error. So if there is no indication of authorization, or if there is no indication of review of work performed by someone, so maybe I am the clerk and I am entering certain data into the system, but nobody reviews my work. Or if I am the purchase clerk and I am purchasing maybe non-current assets or the raw materials, but I don't need any authorization whatsoever, this is what we called a deficiency. Why it's a deficiency? Because if no authorization of work is there, if no review of work is there, frauds or errors may go undetected. Number 5th, if an activity is being performed manually, where those activities could be performed using a software or a machine or any kind of automation, we will consider it as a deficiency. Because normally speaking, when a process is automated, the chances of frauds and errors go on the lower side, because human behavior gets out of the window. So if an activity is being performed using manual techniques, or there is a huge human involvement, you will consider it as a deficiency. And think about the opposite of it. If an activity is performed using automation, you will consider it as a direct control, as a good control. So look for the no or not in the question. Sometimes the examiner would say the bank reconciliation is not performed. So this is something you should look up to. If the examiner is saying this is something not performed, the accounts are not reconciled, when the goods are received, they are not evaluated for quality, this is an indication that this is something which we call a deficiency. Last but surely not the least, look for the documentational issues. For example, the documents should be sequentially pre-numbered. For example, the good receive note or the good dispatch note should have 4 copies of it. There should be a sequential review performed in order to make sure we could follow up on the missing or the late purchase order. So this is something which we call documentational issues. So this is it. This is how you identify the deficiency. If you're going to solve 3, 4, 5 questions on this topic, you will be able to figure out deficiencies from any given question. So I need to teach you 6 things, right? And I'm done with the first, and that is how to identify the deficiency. Let's go to the number 2, which is how to explain the deficiency. Now, in order to explain the deficiency, you have to use such wordings. First of all, a deficiency is something which might create loss of future sales for the company. A deficiency is something which might lead to loss of customer goodwill for the company. A deficiency might lead to loss of employee goodwill for the company, loss of supplier goodwill for the company. So it's not about the loss of customer goodwill. It depends on the question. If it's a payroll system, it could lead to loss of employee goodwill. If it's a purchase system, it could lead to loss of supplier goodwill. If it's a sales system, it could lead to loss of customer goodwill. It could lead to cash flow problems. It could lead to extraordinary cost, which is going to create a negative impact on the business. So this is how you explain the deficiency. You have to wake up the client. You have to make them understand that this is something wrong. And if they are not going to overcome this, if they are not going to, resolve this issue, they will be facing the consequences. How are you going to explain the deficiency? You are going to come up with a brand new sentence. Once you have finished the identification of the deficiency, you will start a brand new sentence, and you will start your sentence with such wording: this could result in. There is a risk that if this problem is not resolved, this could lead to unsatisfied employees, leading to loss of employee goodwill. So this could result in. There is a risk that. This is the kind of wording you should use. This is how you are going to start your sentence. Is this clear? How to identify the deficiency and how to explain the deficiency. Are you clear with the first 2 exam requirements? Can I have confirmation on that before I move on to the third? Okay, Mohammad Zarar is saying, could you please elaborate manual versus automation? Yes, I can. So imagine a factory, Zarar. Imagine there is a factory, and in the factory, the workers are working in shifts. And when they arrive, let's say on the shift at 9 a.m., there is a guy who, enters. Okay, Zarar is present. Okay, Sikandar is absent. Shivani is absent. Fatima is present. Now just imagine, rather than this, what if we have got a biometric device which marks the attendance using your biometric? So how does that sound? In which case do you think a fraud or an error could go on? Option number 1, where there is a guy, or where there is a biometric device. So this is what we called manual versus automation. Is this clear? Oh. Is this clear? Okay, Wakar is saying, I'm confused between deficiency risk. Well, A, forget it. Don't think about it. B, listen to me. If there is a control deficiency, that control deficiency could possibly lead to a fraud or an error. And mind you, the frauds or errors would lead to material misstatements in the financial statement. So that leads to audit risk. Is this clear, Wakar? Okay, that's great, Wakar. So LIBA wants to differentiate between test of control and substantive procedure. Well, when you are writing a test of control, you want to test whether the control system, that is the policies and the procedures, are being followed or not. You are not bothered about the amounts in the financial statement. And when you are applying substantive procedure, which is my topic for the tomorrow, when you are applying substantive procedure, you want to verify whether the financial statements are reflecting a true and fair view or not. You want to verify whether the financial statements are following the standards or not. So these two things are having completely two different objectives: the test of control and the substantive procedure. Okay, Thapa is asking, can you again repeat about weak segregation of duty? Weak segregation of duty means one individual is involved in interrelated too many activities. Example, so Ahmed receives the cash from the customers, he updates the sales and the cash day book. On a weekend, he goes to the bank and deposits all the cash, and at the month end, he performs the bank reconciliation as well. How does that sound? Can I commit a fraud, or can I go with an error? Yeah, it sounds really risky because I can do whatever I want to and nobody would be able to detect it. So the risk of fraud and error is on the higher side. Why is that? Because there is no segregation of duty. Is this clear? Thank you. Okay, considering we are done with the exam requirement number 1, which is how to identify the deficiency and how to explain the deficiency, we are done with 1 and 2. Let's go to the number 3. The third exam requirement which I need to teach you is how to explain the recommendation. Well, first of all, the recommendation means you have to suggest a good control. And if you have to suggest a good control, do not just repeat the deficiency. Now, what do I mean by do not just repeat the deficiency? It means you should try to add value. You should suggest who should perform this activity. Someone senior, sales manager, someone senior from the credit control department. So you should refer to someone who should perform the activity. You should also refer how often this activity should be performed, when it should be performed, on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. So you should suggest some kind of frequency. You have to be specific when it comes to deficiency, when it comes to recommendation. Dear students, a common mistake which all over the world students are committing when it comes to recommendation is they just rewrite the deficiency. How? When the goods are received, they are not checked for the quality. So a poor student, a poor answer would say, when the goods are received, they should be checked for the quality. That's it. The examiner will not give you marks for just repeating the deficiency. You should say, you should try to add value. When the goods are received, there has to be a quality inspector who should evaluate the goods with respect to quality, and this activity should be performed on a daily or on a regular basis, at least on a sample basis. Now you will get 1 mark. So do not just repeat the deficiency. Is this clear? How to write or how to explain the recommendation? Is this clear? Okay, Naila, Brianna, Fatma, very clear. Just read your recommendation. It's an important tip. Just read your recommendation and figure it out. Have you added some value in it, or it's just the repetition of deficiency? Let me give you one more example. Let's say the purchase orders are not sequentially pre-numbered. So this is something you identified from the question, and it's called the identification of deficiency. Now you have to explain it. This could result in a particular order, a particular order could miss out, and the purchase department would be unaware, and as a result the production process could be disturbed. So you have to explain the deficiency. Now a poor recommendation would be the purchase orders should be sequentially numbered. That's a poor answer. A good answer would be all the purchase orders should be sequentially pre-numbered, and on a weekly or at least on a monthly basis, sequential review should be performed by a senior member of the purchasing department just to make sure there are no orders which are unfulfilled. So you have to add a little value. You can't just rewrite the deficiency. Is this clear? Okay, thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you. Great. Now, we are done with 4 exam requirements: how to identify the deficiency, how to explain the deficiency, how to come up with a recommendation. Now we are left with what? Now, how to identify the key controls or the good controls or the direct controls from the question. First thing, this is something the opposite of deficiency. The key controls are the direct controls are the actions that management has taken to reduce the risk of fraud and error. So Vakar was asking few moments ago that what's the connection between the control system and the risk? If the control system is operating effectively, if the controls are good one, that will reduce the risk of fraud and error, which eventually reduces the risk of material misstatement within the financial statement. So in order to get the full mark, you have to explain the risk that the control is designed to mitigate. So a key control will avoid a risk. So you have to explain what would be avoided. How can you explain the key control? This minimizes the risk of. This reduces the risk of. This minimizes the risk of. This reduces the risk of. This ensures that. So this is how we have to explain the key control. Last but surely not the least, how to get the 1 mark with respect to test of control. Now, test of control means as an auditor, I will apply a particular action, and with the help of that action, I will be testing the control system designed and implemented by the management. I'm not bothered about the amounts. I'm not bothered about the financial statements. I'm bothered about the system, how good or bad the system is. Well, in order to score 1 mark, you just need to write 1 test of control. Test of control number 1 could be you can inquire from the management. So inquire of management, understand what's their point of view, how do they operate. So have a discussion, have a question answer session, have an interrogation from the management. This is what we call inquire. Number 2 test of control, you could observe the process. You could observe what the management is doing. You could observe, are they following the SOPs? So this is the test of control number 2. Number 3, you could use the dummy data. Dummy data means you are going to access the client system, you are going to enter certain data, and you will figure out whether the system is processing it correctly or not. So this is what we call use of test data, also known as dummy data. 4th, the last one is you could inspect the documents, you could inspect the reports, you could inspect the reports and look for the sequential number. You could inspect the reports and look for the authorized signature. So look for the signatures, look for the stamp, look for the evidence. So this is what we call test of control. Is this clear to everyone? SOP means standard operating procedures, Shahbaz, which means what should have been done. Are they really following it? So for example, their SOP is that when the goods are received, at least on a sample basis, the quality inspector would check it and then we'll accept it. So this is an SOP, this is their practice, this is their follow. So I might go over there and I might observe, are they really following their SOPs? Is this clear? Okay, most welcome. That's great. Now we are done. No, Umar, no. When it comes to test of controls, we are not going to recalculate or reperform, because recalculation has got to do with the financial statements. And we are not applying substantive procedures. We are applying test of bloody controls. So we just need to focus whether the controls are operating effectively or not, whether the policies and procedures are being followed or not. Yes, there is only one complication when it comes to the control system. Examiner could ask you to write a covering letter, and that would have an extra 2 marks. If you really want to practice covering letter, please write down the names of 2 questions available in your exam kit. Number 1, Amberjack, which is a recent past paper question. Number 2, Fox Industries. So Amberjack and Fox Industries, those 2 questions will facilitate you in understanding and in preparing for 2 extra marks for the covering letter. Is this clear to everyone? Shaista is asking when we have to use dummy data for test of control. Shaista, when there is a system involved, a payroll system which automatically calculates the gross pay and the net pay. Whenever there is a system, a software, an ERP, a bookkeeping software maybe. So if there is a software or something, I could use the test data or a dummy data. If, for example, when the goods are received, Shaista is the one who has to evaluate whether the goods are being evaluated for the quality by the quality inspector or not. Now you can't use dummy data for that. You can observe, you can inspect the reports. That's it. You can't use dummy data. But when it comes to a software or a calculation, an automated software or something, yes, you can use the dummy data. Ubaidullah, basically you can't re-perform because re-performance is a word which is associated with substantive procedure. What you are going to re-perform? If you are going to enter certain data, that's what we call dummy data. Yes, Amberjack and Fox Industries, those are the 2 questions for the covering letter. Yes, the covering letter is always tested, if it is tested, within the context of internal control system. You are supposed to write a report to the management and you have to explain what deficiencies do they have, and you have to come up with recommendation as well. But there are 2 extra marks available for the covering letter. So are we clear? Should we move to the past paper question now? Can I have yes on that? Should we move to the past paper questions? Not the question, rather questions. Okay, that's great. Now I've got a good news for you. And the good news is, how many systems do we have in our syllabus? So we have got 6 systems, right? Now, we have got 6 systems, and out of those 6 systems, approximately 4 systems will be discussed within the next 2 hours. We will solve 2 questions with respect to internal control system, one from the March-June 2022, the most recent past paper question, and one a fairly recent past paper question. So we'll explore all the exam requirements and we'll explore almost all the systems within the next 2 hours. How does that sound? Is this clear to everyone? If it is really clear, what about a break before we move on to the past paper question? I would like to have a break. I need a break. And after the break, we'll be starting questions. So let's have a break for break would be nice. So it's 5:54 p.m. right now. Let's have a break for max 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, we are straight away jumping into the past paper questions and we'll explore all the exam requirements. And out of 6 systems, at least 4 will be covered, or 3-4 will be covered within the next 2 hours. When the system is automated, but the report from the automated system is not checked, should we still consider it as a strong control? No, you should not consider it as a good control, because on a sample basis, once in a blue moon, somebody has to manually check whether the automated system is operating effectively or not. So if an organization is 100% relying on the automated system, that's not a good control. So Daniel, that's your answer. Okay, let's have a break for exactly 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes we'll start the past paper question. So I'll see you soon. Okay, now considering the fact that we are done with the exam requirements and the marking scheme, and we have also understood how to explain the deficiency, how to explain the recommendation, how to write a test of control and all that stuff. Now it's time to move to the past paper questions. And the past paper question number one, which I've selected for the today's session, is what we call equestrian. And why I've selected this question particularly, because if we go and check out the exam requirements, the part A is a straightforward bookish knowledge based question. Describe 4 different types of control activities. Now, control activities is something which you studied in your paper, accountant in business, or whatever you call it, F1 exam. So you studied control activities over there as well. We call it ACCA maps: authorization, segregation of duties, monitoring of controls, verification, IT and IS control, and all that stuff. So you have to explain or describe 4 out of it. So in order to get 4 marks, you need to explain and you need to write one solid sentence on each and every one of them. So this is a straightforward bookish knowledge based question. For example, you could write a sentence or two on segregation of duty. You could explain what verifications are. You could explain what authorizations are. For example, approval of transaction by a suitable responsible official or a higher level of management will ensure that the transactions are valid and genuine. For example, authorization by a responsible official for all purchase orders. So this is how physical or logical controls, reconciliations. So this is how you could explain and you could score 4 out of 4 marks. And again, I also highlighted the importance of bookish straightforward knowledge questions yesterday. So this is another example of it. What about part B? In respect of the internal control system of the company, you have to identify and explain 5 direct controls. What do direct control means? Direct control is something on which the auditor may seek to place reliance on. The auditor would consider trusting it, but auditor would not blindly trust it. Before we move on to the trust, we will go for a test of control. Auditor will always have trust issues, right? So auditor would perform a test of control over the direct controls in order to be certain, in order to be sure, yes, I can rely on the system. So 5 marks are there for the identification and explanation of 5 direct controls, and another 5 marks are there in order to describe a test of control which the auditor should perform in order to identify, in order to assess, in order to verify if each of these direct controls are operating effectively or not. Requirement number C, again from the very same question and from the very same scenario and story, you have to identify and explain 5 deficiencies. That's the opposite of direct control within the company system. And you have to provide what? And you have to provide a recommendation to counter or to overcome those deficiencies. So that's your part B and that's your part C. And what about part D? Well, we are not in a position to have discussion on part D because part D is about internal audit, and the internal audit is a topic for the day 4 because it's a minor topic. So we'll stick to part B and C, and then we'll move to the March-June 2022 past paper question, which has got plenty of systems, not one system in it. Okay, let's start the question. Let's start the question. E-company manufactures smartphones and tablets. Okay, so it's a tech company. Its main customers are retailers who then sell to general public. Fine. The company's manufacturing is spread across 5 different sites, and goods are stored in its 9 warehouses located across the country. No problem with that. That's pretty cool, normal. I'm done with the first paragraph. It is July 1st and you are an audit supervisor and the name of the audit firm is called Baseball and Company, and you are in preparation for the forthcoming, that is upcoming audit for the year ended 30th June. Okay, so the year end has gone by. It's the 1st July now. Yesterday we realized that the year end is around the corner because the questions were for the planning or risk assessment stage. Now it's about the control stage. You are reviewing the following notes. Your audit manager has provided you with in relation to the company's internal controls. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty normal. I'm done with the second paragraph. No key control, no deficiency as of now. Is this clear? The first two paragraphs? Can I have confirmation on that? Are we clear with the first two paragraphs? Okay, that's great. Well, there are certain questions which I need to answer, but I will come back to that later. Let's focus on the question as of now. Okay, third paragraph. Remember, we have to identify the key controls as well, and we have to identify the deficiencies as well. We are not going to read the question twice. If we will be able to identify a key control, we'll write there. We'll attempt the part. If we are going to identify a deficiency, we'll attempt it straight away. So we are not supposed to read the question twice. So the company has a small internal audit department. No problem. During the year, internal audit started a program of physically verifying the company's assets and comparing the results to the non-current asset register. So the internal audit department were trying to physically verify the company's actual assets with the company's register. As this type of reconciliation had not occurred for some time, to date, only 15% of assets have had their existence confirmed, as internal audit has experienced significant staff shortages. So this is what I think this is a clear-cut deficiency. How is this a deficiency? Because you're going to copy all that from the question itself. Let me show you how. Physical verification of assets within the non-current asset register has not been undertaken for some time. A current program has started, but only 15%, only 15% is complete due to staff shortage. So this is going to give you half mark, and you have identified and you have copied it all from the question itself. Now you have to explain it. How you have to explain it? If non-current assets are not physically verified on a regular basis, there is an increased risk of assets being misappropriated or misplaced, as there is no check and balance. If non-current assets are not physically reconciled with the non-current asset register, this increases the risk of assets being stolen, assets being misplaced or misappropriated, because there is no check and balance. This is going to give you another half mark, and you are done with the 1 mark. So what's the key word here? Misappropriated or misplaced, not verified physically on a regular basis. So this is how you are going to get another half mark. This is how you are going to explain the deficiency, and this is how you are going to get complete 1 mark. Now, what should be the recommendation? Well, I need to recommend it to the management that they should appoint or recruit additional resources to the internal audit department specifically for this particular assignment, just to make sure that all those non-current assets should be reconciled. So let's see what the solution has to offer. Additional resources, that's the key word, should be devoted completing the physical verification of all assets within the register. If any assets cannot be liquidated, they need to be written off. This is it. Nice and easy, 1 mark. Let's continue with the question. We are done with the third paragraph as well. We found 1 deficiency so far. During the year, E-company conducted an extensive reorganization of its manufacturing process to improve efficiency. Due to the significant number of employees changes required, the human resource department has been very busy, and to ease their workload during this period, the payroll department has assisted by setting up new employees who have joined the company. Oh, that's not cool. In many payroll system questions, the examiner would tell you there is a segregation of duty between the HR and payroll, and that segregation of duty reduces the risk of fictitious employees being set up and paid. But this question is different. The payroll department is involved in setting up temporary employees. This could result in a situation where the fictitious employees could be set up and being paid. This could lead to a situation where unnecessary wages being charged over the company's head. So this is a deficiency which you need to identify from the question. During the year, the human resource department has been busy. Therefore, the payroll department has set up new joiners to the company. So this is going to give you half mark, and you will copy it from the question. Now you have to explain. This is a lack of segregation of duty, and there is a possibility that the fictitious or duplicate employees being set up and paid by the payroll department because they are on their own. Is this clear? Now, before we move on to the next line, okay, one more deficiency. Overall, the internal audit department is under resourced, right? An internal audit department is an important control within an organization. So you could come up with another deficiency, that the company has experienced significant staff shortage within the internal audit department. And considering internal audit department is an important control which enables the management to identify whether controls are operating effectively or not. If the internal audit department is not sufficiently resourced, this reduces the effectiveness of this all important control. So please, students, try to understand what the deficiency is. Number one deficiency in the question was that the company is unable to reconcile the non-current assets with the non-current asset register. That could lead to frauds and error. That could lead to a situation where actual assets are misplaced or something. Second deficiency is their internal audit department itself is understaffed. An internal audit department is an important control within an organization. So if that internal audit department is under resourced or understaffed, this important control is compromised, which reduces the effectiveness of this all important control. Number third deficiency within the question is that the HR department and the payroll department should have a segregation of duty, but because HR department is too busy, there seems to be a compromise that could lead to fictitious employees being set up and paid. Are you clear up till now with respect to three deficiencies? Okay, clear. Brianna is clear. Hamad is clear. Okay, Ubaid is saying, please repeat internal audit. Internal audit department. The presence of the internal audit department is considered as an extremely important control. Now, your client does have an internal audit department, but the internal audit department is significantly under-resourced. They have a shortage of staff. So if that all important controls is understaffed, under-resourced, I would say it's a formality. I would say the overall control is not operating effectively. So this is what a control is. What this is the deficiency. What should be the recommendation with respect to understaffed internal audit department? I think senior management should consider recruiting additional employees for the internal audit department. And if it is not possible to recruit more employees, they should consider it outsourcing it. That's one mark. So there is a lack of segregation of duty between the HR and payroll. The HR director should review the workload of the department, and they should, prioritize things. For example, the recruitment of new employees is more important, so they should prioritize things. Additionally, they may consider recruiting more employees for the HR department if the HR department is also under significant workload, or if they are under resourced. Okay, we have identified three deficiencies so far. Let's continue. During the year, e-company conducted an extensive well, let's highlight the deficiencies as well. 15% of the assets have been. Internal audit department experienced staff shortages. Payroll department has assisted by setting up new employees. So 3 deficiencies so far. A new in January 20x5, the wage rate paid to employee was increased by HR director. The change in the wage rate was communicated to the payroll department by email. So the wage rate was increased by the HR director. Wage rate is dependent on one individual, that is HR director only. That should not have been the case. Rather, the wage rates should have been approved and, you know, decided or increased by the overall board. This should have been the overall board's job. Lack of approval for wage increase. The wage rate has been increased by the HR director and notified to the payroll supervisor by email. As payroll can be a significant expense for a business, any decision to increase this should have been made by the board as a whole, not just by one individual. If this is the case, that individual could, increase the wage of, his friends or her friends or any other particular individual. So all increase of pay should be proposed by the HR department and then formally agreed by the board of directors, not the one-man job. So now we have identified 4 deficiencies within the question. HR director, that was the 4th deficiency. A new receivable ledger system was introduced in May 20x5 and will continue to be run in parallel with the old system until internal audit department has completed its check between the 2 systems. That's a key control. So they launched a new system, but both systems were, they were running them parallel, and then the internal audit department has completed their checks and then they will, get rid of their old system. So this is a key control. This is a direct control, and this control will ensure if there are any errors which could lead to material misstatement in the receivable balance could be identified. Check it out. That's the first direct control. Changes to the accounting systems are monitored by the internal audit department as evidenced by the change to the receivable system. This reduces the risk of errors, loss of data, or incorrect processing of information, which could lead to material misstatement. So the internal audit department would perform the check and balance, and that will lead to reduced risk of frauds or errors, and that reduces the risk of material misstatement, especially with respect to receivable balance. What about the test of control? Well, for the test of control, you can select a sample of receivables and agree the data in the old system to the data in the new system at several points in time during the year. Make sure that both systems are reconciled at any point of time. So that was the first key control, that internal audit department is performing check and balances. New customers obtained by the sales teams are required to undergo a full credit check. On the basis of this, a credit limit is proposed by the sales staff and approved by the sales director via email. That's another key control, that the credit limits are proposed by the staff but approved by the director. This ensures that we are only going to deal with genuine customers. This reduces the risk of irrecoverable debts. This reduces the risk of overstated receivables. This ensures that only those customers will be authorized which are, appropriate. So just read the answer. All new customers are required to undergo a full credit check. That's all copied from the question. And the credit limits with appropriate authorization by the director. So this is all credit limits. Skip this part. This means sales are only made to customers that are likely to pay in full and on time, reducing the risk of irrecoverable debts and overstatement of receivables. So this is a fantastic control. The credit limits is proposed by the staff, but it is authorized or approved by the director. What you can do is you can inspect the evidence of the credit limit review performed by the sales manager during the year. So this could be one test of control. You can inspect a sample of customer file. Select a sample of customer file. Make sure that the credit limit was proposed by the staff, approved by the director, and make sure the credit limit is up to date. Well done. So this was credit limit. That was the third key control. Credit limits are reviewed every 6 months by the sale manager, and any amendments are made via credit limit review form, which must be authorized by sale director. So that's another key control, that is that the credit limits are regularly reviewed by the sales team, and if they require any kind of amendment, they perform the amendment. So this is one combined control. Okay, sales invoices are raised by the accounts department using the approved company price list, which is updated quarterly. E-company offers discounts to customers depending on the volume of orders with an approved discount range of 2 to 10%. Discount must be requested by the sale manager and authorized by the sale director to allow the accounts team to raise an invoice. So that's another key control. Number one, they use approved price list, so they cannot come up with their own price. Number second, if there is any discount, that discount is authorized by the sales director. So both of these are control, the direct controls. Sales invoices are prepared using the company price list, that is from the question. This reduces the risk of errors when raising the invoices, and this ensures the accuracy of revenue. What about the discounts? Must be requested by the manager and authorized by the director. This reduces the risk of fraud, which will result in the misstatement of revenue. So you can squeeze the answer. This reduces the risk of, this could result in. So there were two deficiencies over here. Number one, two key controls: approved company price list and discounts must be authorized by the sales director. So how many points we have identified so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have identified 8, and we just need 10. 5 key controls, 5 deficiencies. Monthly perpetual inventory counts are undertaken at each of the 9 warehouse, as a full year inventory count is too disruptive for the company. Okay, they keep on with the perpetual inventory count. High value items are stored in a secure area in each warehouse. Access is via 4-digit code, which for convenience is same across all sites. Due to the company's reorganization program, some of the monthly inventory counts were not performed. So in this paragraph, my dear students, there are 2 deficiencies. In this paragraph, there are 2 deficiencies. Can you identify which 2? Help me out. There are 2 deficiencies. Yes, the password is well known to everyone, so anybody could access the area. Anybody could, be there and do whatever wants to. As a result of that, company could face loss of inventory. Company could face theft. Number second, no Tareem, this is not a deficiency. Perpetual counts but no final count. This is not a deficiency. The second deficiency in the question is, the second deficiency within that paragraph is that some of the monthly inventory counts were not performed at all. As a result of that, year-end inventory balances could be materially misstated. So there are 2 deficiencies. A, the access is via 4-digit code, and the code is known to everyone. So any fraud or error, any theft could go undetected, and we won't be able to identify who we need to blame. The recommendation should be the access code for all the sites should be different from each other, and it should be restricted to very important, senior and limited individuals only. And even that password should be changed after a while or so. There should be a rotation of password. And second deficiency is some of the monthly inventory counts were not performed, and as a result, there should be unreconciled items between the actual inventory and the inventory records. Is this clear, the 2 deficiencies? Let's check it out from the solution. Yes, access to high value inventory. Read this out. High value inventory is stored in a secure location across all 9 warehouses, and access is via 4-digit code, which is common to all sites. As considerable number of people will be aware of the code, as a result of that, there is a significant increased risk of fraud. What should be the recommendation? The access code for all the sites should be changed on a regular basis. The code should be unique for every branch, and this should be known to very limited senior members, and even that should be changed on a regular basis. What about the second deficiency? Monthly perpetual inventory counts are supposed to be undertaken at each of the 9 warehouses, but some of these are outstanding, so you didn't perform. So as a result of that, if counts are outstanding, some goods may not be counted and the inventory records may be incorrect. Company might be, some of the items could be stolen and the company might not be able to figure it out. What should be your recommendation? The program of perpetual inventory count should be reviewed for omission, and any lines which have been missed out should be included in the remaining counts. We need to catch up. We can't afford to miss out anything. Okay. So there were 2 deficiencies over here. Number 1, 4-digit code, and second, inventory counts were not performed. Bank reconciliations are undertaken monthly by an accounts clerk, and details of all reconciling items are included. Where the sum of the reconciling item is significant, the reconciliation is sent to the financial controller for review. What's that? Is it a key control or a deficiency? Please read this paragraph about the bank reconciliation and let me know overall what is it. Is it a deficiency or is it a key control? Bank reconciliations are undertaken by the accounts clerk. No problem with that. If the reconciling items are significant, only then the report is sent to the financial controller. It means if the reconciling items are not significant, the financial controller will not perform the review. Well, that's poor. What if there are material misstatements? What if there are compensating misstatements? Some of them are nullifying the effect of each other. So at the end of the day, the reconciling amount is a smaller one, but there are huge mistakes within the reconciliation. So ideally speaking, the financial controller should review the reconciliation at every occasion. So read this out. The bank reconciliations are only reviewed by the financial controller if the sum of the reconciling item is significant. Therefore, some reconciliations are not being reviewed. So you have to copy all that from the question. The bank reconciliations could contain significant errors but a low overall amount. Why overall low amount? Because there could be compensating errors which cancels out each other. This bank reconciliation is an important control, and if it's not being carried out effectively, that increases the risk of material misstatement within the year-end bank balances. What should be your recommendation? The bank reconciliation should be reviewed by the financial controller on a monthly basis, even if there are no reconciling items. And moreover, the financial controller should sign it just to make sure there is an evidence of the review. Last paragraph. In order to maximize cash balances, the finance director approves all purchase invoices for payment 75 days after receipt of the invoice. Payments are made by the cashier's office by the bank transfer. Invoices are stamped as paid and returned to the purchase ledger team, who record the payment and file the invoice separately from invoices not yet paid. So this is a good control. They are trying to make sure that they do not make dual payments. But there is a deficiency as well, and the deficiency is they are making the payments too late after 75 days. So invoices are authorized by the finance director, but payment is only made after 75 days. There is a risk that the company is missing out on early settlement discount. There is a risk because of too late payment, the company is compromising on the supplier goodwill, and in the longer term, the supplier may refuse to supply the goods at all. What should be the recommendation? The company needs to review their policy, and they need to consider the early settlement discount, and they need to make sure they are not offending the suppliers. But there was a key control as well. And what was the key control? Invoices are stamped as paid and filed separately. This prevents invoices being paid twice, because this will block the company's cash unnecessarily if you are going to pay it twice. So is this clear, this question? So that was a very complicated and a tricky question. It had flavors of bank and cash. It had flavors relevant to inventory. It had flavors relevant to sales and purchase. It pretty much covers the whole syllabus. Is this clear to everyone? Can I have confirmation on that? Clear. Yes, Fatma, Brianna, you're absolutely right. Sir, is there something we should be careful while reading the question, like you are the audit supervisor or no, you don't have to worry about the role of the auditor when it comes to AA. In AAA, yes, you have to. Okay, SN is clear, Hira is clear, Daniel is clear, Ali clear, Shaista clear. That's great. Okay, Fatma, in some of the questions, there is a statement, all sheets are completed in ink. Can we mention below deficiency and recommendation for the statement? If the sheets are completed in ink, there is a chance of data loss due to uncertain such as water. No, 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 no. Fatma, don't be that much skeptic. If the sheets are filled in ink, that's a good control, because if the sheets are filled with lead pencil, anybody can change it. So don't criticize the ink. Oh, Shali has raised an important question, and I answered this one yesterday as well. Is it important to write bold line first? What, the heading? No, that's, there is no marks for heading. So you should not write that bold heading. You should not come up with heading. Simply identify the deficiency from the question using the copy paste technique. The video is available in the WhatsApp group, and then explain it in your own words using the keywords. Is this clear? Okay. Okay, so here I am with the March June 2022 exam, and we did the first question called ESC company, which was about audit risk yesterday, exactly 24 hours ago. Now I want to start the question number 2, and let's check it out, the exam requirements first. So the overall marks are 20. Part A is up for 4 marks, and it's what? Guess what? What about part A? It's a straightforward bookish knowledge based question. Describe 4 matters the auditor may consider in determining whether a deficiency in internal control is significant. What makes a deficiency a significant deficiency? And you do not need to refer to the scenario. You are not supposed to refer to the scenario. What do we call it then? We call it straightforward bookish knowledge question. Well, a deficiency is considered as a significant deficiency if it has a huge frequency. Well, a deficiency is considered as a significant deficiency if it could lead to frauds and error. A deficiency would be considered as a significant deficiency if that leads to a loss of fraud, it leads to losses or frauds. A deficiency is considered as a significant deficiency by the auditor if it leads to other deficiencies within the system. A deficiency would considered as a significant deficiency if it is an important control of the overall financial reporting process, such as the bank reconciliation. So choose the easier ones, the interaction of the deficiency with other deficiencies. The importance of the identifying deficiency to the financial reporting process, the amount exposed to the deficiency, the likelihood of the deficiency, the volume of activity which has occurred or could occur. So you have to write 4 points in order to get 4 marks. So this part A is a straightforward bookish knowledge question. Part B and part C, please be very attentive. Part B, in respect of the sales system, you have to identify and explain 3 direct controls, and then you have to write 3 tests of controls. So 3 plus 3, that gives you 6 marks. And the question is only about sales system. What about part C? Identify and explain 5 deficiencies within the company's payroll and bank system, and then provide obviously 5 control recommendation to address those deficiencies. So it means for the part C, there are 5 twos at 10 marks available. And for the part B, there are 3 plus 3, 6 marks available. Are you all clear with respect to the exam requirements of the part B and C? Is it necessary to reperform the bank reconciliation and test of control? Well, it depends. If the client has already performed the bank reconciliation, you would like to review it. If they have not performed it, then you will apply it. I hope it's clear to you, Badur Rahman. Okay, as far as this requirement is concerned, Brianna, Fatma, Daniel, Laiba are clear. Manshi is saying, do we have to explain deficiencies or writing only one line? We have to explain this increases the risk of, or this could result in. You have to scare the client. You have to wake them up. You have to tell the what negative impact they could face. You have to highlight the negative impact on the business, extra cost to the business, loss of future sales, loss of customer or supplier or employee goodwill, something. Manchi, you have to explain why, because you have to identify the deficiency from the question. Half mark for that. So at least you need to explain it properly using next line, using a separate sentence. Is this clear? Okay, guys, are you all clear? I'm asking for the first part of the question. No, you don't. You just have to explain. You have to write 4 decent sentences. That's it. Just like the solution. You don't have to explain it in detail. The interaction of the deficiency with other deficiencies in the internal control system, that makes it significant. So you have to explain. That's it. You can keep it short. Is this clear? Okay, clear. Naila, clear. Anshara, clear. Shivani, we can have deficiency and good control at same point of time, like shifting from manual to automated. Deficiency in experienced staff, good control less. Yeah, this could be a possibility. For example, I think in the equestrian there was a situation where the credit limits were reviewed or maybe authorized by the director. This could be a situation where one particular situation could lead to deficiency and a key control at the same time. Okay, Stan and Hira are also clear. That's it. So let's move to this question, which is from the March-June 2022. And guess what? There is a first paragraph which will have nothing in it. So it is 1st July, and you are an audit supervisor, and your audit firm is called Walsh Company, and you are currently reviewing notes in relation to the internal controls in place at your client. Your client is called Whittaker and Company, and they manufacture luxury bed linen wholesale to the hotel trade and direct to the public from its factory store. Their year end is 31st August 20x5. Now the examiner has given you 3 systems rather than 1. Sales system, payroll system, last but not the least, bank system. From the sales system, you have to identify 3 key controls, 3 direct controls. I'm sure there will be 4 or maybe 5, at least 4, but you have to identify 3 direct controls. So all of you have got 5 minutes. Please read it on and try to identify 3 key controls on your own. Do it now. So I hope you have identified three key controls. So the company implemented a new sales system in May 20x5, and the new system was fully tested prior to its implementation and will be run in parallel with the old system until the year end. And the internal audit department is responsible for comparing the output from the old and new system, investigating any discrepancies, and making recommendation for further action. That's beautiful and that's perfect. And I think this is something from the last question, because we studied something relevant to this in the last question as well. Now guys, please answer me, is this something repetitive for you? Can you relate it from the previous question? If somebody has already prepared the last question, the student is going to find it comfortable or not? Is this something extraordinary new or something relevant to that question called equestrian? So what I'm trying to teach you here, what I'm trying to make you realize, that if somebody is damn good when it comes to equestrian, he or she is not going to face a real challenge when it comes to this latest past paper question called Whittaker. Yes, thank you very much, Ali. It's relevant. Yes, Laiba, Fatma, Ahmad, Brianna, Naila, absolutely, everyone out there. So it's relevant, and this is the beauty of double A. But you cannot over trust yourself, and you cannot be complacent about things. First of all, you need to prepare one question. You need to invest 2, 3, 4 hours on one question. Then you will start enjoying a thing called learning curve. So that direct control will reduce the risk of data lost or data not processed quickly. That's all from the last question. There's nothing new in it. So we have identified first deficiency, and that has got to do with the internal audit department being responsible. Let's continue. The company operates a fully automated credit check process for all its new hotel customers. The automated system generates a credit limit for each new customer, which the sales director approves before the customer can place any order, and she evidences her approval in the system. So basically, she makes electronic signature or something. That's another beautiful control, that the automated system is responsible for the credit check. That reduces the risk of you know that reduces the risk of a situation where we might be making sales to customers who are not going to pay us in full and who are not going to pay us in time. That reduces the risk of bad debts. Is this something repetitive? Are you familiar with this situation as well? This reduces the risk of lost revenue and uncollectible trade receivables. This ensures that only credit-worthy customers are dealt with. Is this something you know already, or this is something brand new? Yes, Hamad, thank you very much. We already dealt this situation in the previous question. Yes, Priyana, it's repetitive. Saad, Anshara, absolutely. Yes, you have to maneuver your words. I understand that. It's not like copy paste, copy paste. You need to use your common sense. But the majority chunk or the key words or the basic underlying concept remains the same. So now I'm done with two key controls, and I'm not investing too much energy on that, because I know that you guys are good at it, and I know that you will invest 3, 4 hours on a question, and that will automatically help you in this question. Okay, let's continue. On a monthly basis, the receivable ledger clerk downloads the age receivable report and reviews it for outstanding debts. In line with the company's credit control policy, any debts which are greater than 30 days overdue are then passed to the credit control department, which contacts the customer to resolve any issues and recover the debts. That's fantastic. They are performing the age receivable reconciliation. They are performing the review. They are making sure anyone who crosses the 30-day period should be chased up on a regular basis. This also will ensure that the bad debts are minimized. This reduces the risk of irrecoverable debts. This ensures that the irrecoverability of receivable should be identified on a timely basis. So this is a beautiful key control. This is a regular review of the age receivable listing and subsequent action by the credit control department. So it's not only about somebody is performing the age receivable review, it's about the credit control action as well. So we are done with 3 controls, but still we have got something. Also, on a monthly basis, the account reconciles the receivable ledger control account to the receivable ledger in order to verify the month end receivable balance. Any reconciling items are documented, errors are corrected on a timely basis, and then the reconciliations are reviewed and approved by the financial controller. Well done. So the accounts clerk performs monthly receivable ledger control account, all that copy from the question, and this regular reconciliation will ensure that if there is anything which is not reconciled, that should be identified on a timely basis, and that review by the financial controller will ensure the accuracy of the reconciliation. That's an added control. So we had to identify 3 key controls, but within the question or within the solution, there are 4 direct controls. Are we all clear with respect to those 5 direct controls? Sir, if we copy more than one sentence, won't it be a problem? Not at all, Shabali, no problem. You can copy all what you want to and you will get just half mark for the identification. Don't unnecessarily copy. Be smart, but still you will get half mark. And then you have to explain. Okay, Hamad, Brianna, Fatma, Laiba, you all are clear. That's great. Thank you very much, Daniel. This is not difficult. If it is a direct control, Daniel, you have to identify the key control from the question, then move to the next line and say, start something like that. This reduces the risk of. This will ensure that. You have to tell, you have to explain what good features you could get out of it. What good fortune this will bring to you, to the company. Okay. That's great. Now back to the exam requirement. The exam requirement part B. Now, sorry, not the part B, it's about the part C. Now you have to explain and identify and explain not 1, not 2, 5 deficiencies. But which system are we talking here? Well, we did sales system, but now it's about the payroll and the bank system. So you have to understand this payroll system right now in front of your screen, starting from this, ending from, over here. And you have to identify at least 3 deficiencies because we have got bank system as well. So we might be able to identify deficiencies from the bank as well. Now, before we move on to the payroll and bank system, let's have one last break. And anyone out there who is wondering for the namaz or any other break according to the time differences, you can have a break. This is 6:57 right now, so this is a break for 8 minutes. Let's be back at 6:05. Okay, so enjoy your break and see you soon, and don't go anywhere because we are going to nail the payroll system and the bank and cash system. See you. Okay, so now it's time to finish off this topic called internal control systems on a high note. Dear students, obviously, I'm going to suggest you the same drill once I'm done for the night, that you will solve these two questions using the ACCA's practice platform, and you will type them and you will learn every bit of it. You will invest 3-4 hours per question, minimum 4 hours, I think, per question. So you need to invest 7-8 hours before you show up for the day 3 of the webinar. But obviously, we are not going to stop here. Once I'm done with the 4 days of webinar, I will definitely, most certainly, let you know what other questions you need to add in your, you know, artery and in your library in order to make sure you rock on 5th September 2022. But as of now, I can't give you 3, 4, 5 questions on risk. As of now, tonight, I can't suggest you 3, 4, or 5 questions on controls. So as we speak, or as we progress through these webinars, we need to focus on the quality rather than quantity. So last night I requested 2 questions only. Those 2 questions which we actually solved and which we actually did during the session. So the same story goes for the night as well. You need to type and prepare these 2 questions, which should be a walk in the park for you. You will be able to understand things, but you need to grasp them. You need to master them. You need to make sure that you are absolutely well prepared and comfortable with each and every deficiency, each and every goddamn explanation, and every goddamn test of control. So this is what the plan is. It's simple, straightforward, and a sure shot success story. So let's go to the part C, and we have to identify and explain 5 deficiencies from the payroll and bank system. And let's start with the payroll system. So I'm giving you 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes maybe. Maybe you will be able to read this whole story. Maybe you will be able to identify the deficiencies on your own. So it's up to you. 3-4 minutes, payroll system, over to you. Then I will proceed. Okay, are you done now? Are you done? That's great. Naila, Thapa, Priyana are done. That's great. Yeah, Fatma, you're right. Yes, Ahmad, Anshara. Okay, that's great. That sounds great. Zain, that's great. Sikandar, fantastic. Okay, then. So W company has a human resource department which is responsible for processing joiners and leavers, including preparing and sending authorized joiners forms to the payroll department so that the new employees can be set up correctly on the payroll system. That's cool. That's cool. But I need to identify deficiency. However, now comes the bad news. When additional staff are required at short notice, joiner forms are not completed, and instead the production supervisor notifies the payroll department by email on the day they commence employment. So let's imagine my name is Ahmed and I'm the production supervisor. I will hire my friends, my buddies, and I will hire them on a unnecessary high wage. Maybe I will hire unnecessary employees because I'm on my own. I don't have to, you know, get approval from anyone. So this lack of segregation of duty would lead to extra cost to the company. This could lead to fictitious employees being set up by the production supervisor and unnecessary wage being awarded by the production supervisor because he's on his own. He's one man army now. Recommendation: no matter what happens, even at the short notice, the recruitment should be initiated and authorized and approved by the HR, and the wage rate should be formally agreed according to the board's company's policy or something. So again, this first deficiency is something which I personally believe for my student, this is something repetitive. This is something monotonous. My student would already be familiar with all this. He or she would know what to expect, what to write in the answer. Let's check it out. Yes, when additional staff are required at short notice, joiner forms are not completed. Instead, they are added to the payroll following email notification from the production supervisor. This is all from the question itself. Now, the explanation. This could result in, sorry, this could result in temporary employees not receiving the correct pay or not being paid on time, resulting in loss of employee goodwill. The addition of employees to the payroll without authorization from HR also increases the risk of fictitious individuals being added. What should be the recommendation? I think the recommendation should be the payroll department should not set up any new employees without authorization from the HR, because until unless they will not get the authorization from HR, they should not be allowed to entertain anyone new. Staff are required to work overtime on a regular basis in order to meet production targets. That's good for the staff. Overtime is paid monthly in arrears. Okay, overtime is paid every month. That's great. At the end of month in which it worked, okay, fine. So if I have worked overtime in August, I will be getting the pay on 1st September. That's cool. All overtime reports are reviewed on a quarterly basis by the production supervisor after the overtime has already been paid. Review of overtime reports are evidenced by signature of the production director. What's the deficiency here? The overtime reports are generated quarterly, although the payments are made monthly. So it means if there is any discrepancy or any error or any problem within the overtime report, that is too late because you have already made the payments. The control mechanism is operating too late. So just read it out from the solution. Staff are paid overtime on a monthly basis, but the reports are reviewed every quarter once they have already been paid. Reviewing overtime work reports quarterly after the employees have been paid is too infrequent. This could result in employees being paid for hours not worked. This could lead to extraordinary costs for the company, and this could also lead to employee goodwill because maybe some of the staff are being underpaid. So maybe you paid extra cost to A, extra wage to A, extra bonus to A, extra overtime premium to A, and maybe you underpaid to someone. So that could lead to extra cost for the company, and at the same time, this could lead to unsatisfied, or this could lead to loss of employee goodwill as well. What should be the recommendation? The production supervisor should review and authorize the overtime work reports before they are processed to the payroll department. They should make sure that all the report is reviewed and authorized before the payment has been made. so that the correct amount should be paid to the employees. Okay, so we have identified two deficiencies so far. Joiner forms are not completed and reviewed on a quarterly basis. Okay, let's continue. The payroll system automatically calculates wages. Now that sounds good, and I'm interested in, oh well, that's a key control, automatically. But wait, hang on. The payroll system automatically calculates wages and deductions for all employees based on standing data. That's cool. The standing data is reviewed regularly to ensure it is still accurate. However, no checks are performed on a monthly payroll calculation. Somebody has to perform monthly payroll calculation on a manual basis just to make sure that the software or the system is operating as efficiently as it should be. Recommendation: someone has to perform manual calculation and reconcile it with the software. Maybe you can use the test data or dummy data. If nobody is performing the monthly calculation, this could result in maybe some of the employees are being overpaid and some of the employees are being underpaid. Why? Because of the malfunction of the software. Nobody would be able to realize it. So that's the third deficiency. We need total 5. In May each year, all employees receive a bonus, the amount of which varies depending upon their performance. The payroll department receives written notification from the HR manager of the bonus based on his view of employee performance. Oh, well, that's not cool. The bonus should be based upon the company policy according to certain criteria, not purely based on one person's judgment. He could be awarding extraordinary bonuses to certain employees and not paying good enough bonuses to certain employees, which leads to loss of loss of employee goodwill. So that's the fourth deficiency. And the final one is the bonuses for 20x5 were input into the payroll system by the clerk. No problem with that. After May's payroll had been processed, a small number of employees notified the payroll department that the bonus they had been paid did not agree to the bonus confirmation letter. So there is a mistake. The payroll clerk is entering the data, but nobody is reviewing his work. As a result, there are mistakes going on. Again, that could lead to extraordinary bonus to certain employees. And if I have received extra bonus, I will not complain. And if I have received, lower bonus amount, yes, I will complain. So the HR decides on the bonuses based on employee performance. This is not a good parameter. This could lead to extra cost. This could lead to employee goodwill depending upon the situation. The bonus were input into the system and apparently there seems to be few errors. Now those employees are going to raise concerns who have not received the bonus. Those who are overpaid will not say anything. Those who are underpaid, only those will complain. So in any case, it's not good for the company. Now we need to identify one more deficiency and we are still left with bank system. Okay, I'm giving you another 5 minutes. Please read this bank system and try to identify the deficiency on your own. So how many deficiencies have you identified? Shivani is saying password is shared to all, only significant items are investigated. Yeah. If the password is known to everyone, anyone could use the company's bank account. That's great. I think it's time to finish off this question. W company uses an internet banking system which requires a two-step verification process. That's cool. A password is required to log on to the system. An additional passcode is then required to set up the new payee or to withdraw funds. The login details, including the password and then the passcode, everything is saved in a shared file which is accessible to everyone from the accounts department. So I could, access that system. I could make a payment. I could make certain purchases. I could be, transferring the funds from the company account to anyone. Who's going to be responsible for that? Who is going to identify who did that transaction? Because the password is known to anyone. So that's a serious and a very, it sounds a very, very pathetic deficiency. So the internet banking login details are saved in the central location, which is accessible to all employees. That's copy from the question. There is a risk that staff are fraudulently setting up payees or making withdrawals. So I could add a beneficiary. I could make payments to anyone. I could make certain payments to, I could do certain shopping or something. I'm always up for shopping. So this could be the case. What should be the recommendation? The internet banking login details should not be documented anyway. It should be known to very limited senior officials, and even the password should be reviewed and regularly changed. That's great. Last, the accounts clerk undertakes the bank reconciliation on a weekly basis. The reconciling items are documented and sent to the financial controller for review. The financial controller only investigates the reconciling items if some of these items is significant. Did we study anything like that before? Please read this whole sentence all over again. The clerk performs the reconciliation on a weekly or on a monthly basis. Okay. Someone very senior, such as financial controller, performs the review. Wow, that's great. But he or she only performs the review if the reconciling items are significant. What if the reconciling items are not significant? Okay, fine. He's not going to review it. What if there are material misstatements within that reconciliation, but those compensating errors are nullifying the effect of each other? And as a result, at the end of the day, the reconciling item is a smaller one. That's a really poor control. Please read it on before we are done with this question. The reconciling items on the bank reconciliation are only reconciled by the financial controller if the sum of the reconciling item is significant. That's all from the question, half mark. The bank reconciliation could contain significant errors but a low overall amount because of the compensating errors, which could cancel out each other. So if reconciling items are not reviewed, this reduces the risk of overall bank reconciliation. We all know how important bank reconciliation is, but if we are not performing it appropriately, it's 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 a complete waste. On paper, the client would say, oh yes, we do have bank reconciliation, but as a matter of fact, it's not worth doing it if they are doing it the way they are doing it. What should be the recommendation? The reconciling item should be reviewed by the financial controller on a regular basis, even if the amounts are not significant. Now you need to add a little value, and the financial controller should evidence his or her review by way of signature on bank reconciliation. So please learn this. Is this clear to everyone? Was it repetitive? Yes, we did the same in the equestrian as well. Okay, then we are done with the second past paper question as well. Now, if you have got any confusion or any concern relevant to internal control systems or even relevant to audit risk, please go on. And well, as of now, I've got a good news for you. The first lecture, the day one of the webinar relevant to the audit risk is now available. So once I'm done with the today's session, I will definitely share the link. Otherwise, somebody else will share the link. Okay, so before I take on your questions, wait a second. So this is a question called Amberjack, and this is from December 19. Let me help you with 2 marks relevant to the. Now, what about this exam requirement? List 4 limitations of internal control components. So this is a straightforward bookish knowledge. What about part B? 16 marks. Identify and explain 7 deficiencies in the sales and dispatch system and then provide 7 recommendations. So 7 2s are 14, but the marks are 16. Why is that? Because there are 2 extra marks available for the covering letter. Now, what do I mean by covering letter? A covering letter is also required. Marks will be awarded for a letter format. So take care of the format, and then appropriate greetings such as the start and the finish, disclaimer and sign off. Let me explain what's that. So it's a report to the management. Covering letter is basically a report to the management from the external auditor. This report is never publicly available. It's a secret report. Who are the addressees? The board of directors. Which company? Amberjack. Ignore the address, write XYZ, and then write the date of your exam. And dear sirs, audit of Amberjack for the year ended 30th April. Now, there are 3 things within this letter. First of all, I would like to highlight it to the client that the appendix to this report is having the deficiencies and the recommendations. So the first thing, please find the enclosed report to the management on the deficiencies in the internal controls which we identified during the audit. Second thing, please note that this report only addresses those deficiencies which we identified during the audit. If further testing had been performed, more deficiencies may have been identified or may have been reported. I just want to make the client realize that do not consider this report as a comprehensive one. Do not assume that we have identified 100% deficiencies. There could be many more. Number third, this report is for the use of management only, and they should not use it or they should not share it with anyone else. Last but not the least, if they have got any concerns, please do not hesitate to contact us, and I'm always available on WhatsApp. So yours faithfully, audit firm. You got to learn, you can squeeze it a bit, and you got to learn this format in order to score 2 marks. On the exam day, you cannot invest too much time on thinking this format or developing or creating a format. You got to learn it. So now I need a confirmation from you. Are you clear with these 2 marks? Dear students, these 2 marks are extremely important for you. Why I'm saying that? Because in the triple A exam, the professional marks used to be 4 up till June 2022, the last attempt. 4 professional marks for the last 3-4 years. But from September 2022, which is the upcoming attempt on again Monday 5th September 2022, the professional exams for the students attempting AAA has gone up madly from 4 marks to 20 marks. So the AA examiner would test these 2 marks in AA because they want a smooth transformation from AA to AAA. The AAA is now having 20 professional marks. The exam time remains the same. The marking has gone down. Overall exam requirements have gone down from 100 to 80 because they have to entertain 20 professional marks. So with this thing, keeping that thing in mind, I am super confident that you will get this 2 marks of covering letter in your exam as well. Shaista, absolutely yes. Covering letter is a report designed and implemented by the external auditor about the system. So it's never going to be in relation to ethics. It's never going to be in relation to audit risk. It's never about internal audit. It's never about substantive procedure. It's not about the completion review and reporting. it has got to do with one topic only, that is internal control systems, which is the major topic number 2, which we covered today. That's why I'm having discussion on covering letter right now, right here. Yes, Umar Hayat, what, please raise your question. Okay, clear. Yes, sir, clear for 2 marks. That's great. Anshara has asked a question, sir. For every question, the covering letter is same. Absolutely, 99.999% clear. The way they say it kills 99.99% germs. Okay. Student loan deductions are completed by relevant employees and payments are made directly to third party until the employee notifies the HR that the loan has been repaid in full. So what's the deficiency over here? Omar has asked a very long question. Okay, please let me wake up. Okay, what's the deficiency? The deficiency is why the hell HR is not working. Why, as a student or as an employee, I have to tell them, please stop deduction. They should be aware of the things. They should be making the reconciliations. They should be aware of everything, what payment has been made, what payment is outstanding. So that's the deficiency. What if I forget to inform them? They will still pay unnecessarily to the government or whatever. So that's the deficiency, and the recommendation is the HR or the payroll department should be aware of the things, and they should make sure when once the payment is done and dusted, they should stop making the payments. The sale clerk take on telephone orders not in written form and write the order on plain paper. Then after the day and they copy this order. What, sir? Is there any deficiency? Yes, there is a deficiency. If you are going to tell me your number, if you are going to tell me your number, and if I'm not going to write it somewhere, how sure or how certain you are that we'll link up? Because I might forget your number. So that goes for the sales order as well. Is it clear? If I'm not going to write it on a professional paper, on a professional form or something, I might miss out something. You, if you're going to visit a good restaurant, they are going to take your order properly on a paper or maybe on a tablet. They are going to make sure. And at the end of the day, well, at the end of your order, they will repeat it. Sir, I would like to repeat your order. Can you please confirm you have ordered this, you have ordered that, and you have ordered this. And yeah, yes, you have ordered the poison as well. Yeah, chilled poison, Coke, Pepsi, whatever. So they are going to repeat it just to make sure there is no mistake in it. Okay. Why is payroll so panicked? Like I have practiced about. Ibrahim, if you really want to make sure you are absolutely confident with respect to payroll, I would suggest you a question on payroll from December 18. One of my personal favorite question. It's called Raspberry. So if you could do Raspberry, you will shine when it comes to payroll. Okay, Ahmad, you got the point, right? What are the expected words to start with as guide to answer questions? I didn't get your question. Why not the final inventory count should be made with prepare? Tareem Fatma, there are two types of counts. Periodic stock count, that is the full and final year end count. Number second, perpetual or a continuous inventory count. So you can't criticize the perpetual inventory count because the overall objective of both count is same. We need to count everything once. So we will, don't worry. Okay, MN, please join the WhatsApp group and then check out the description of the group and you will be able to figure out everything you need. And moreover, you have to attend the lecture first. Yes, there might be an adjustment, but the adjustments are only required if you have missed a particular item and you did not count it at all. Otherwise, if you have completed the cycle, no adjustment is required. Shivani is saying 5 elements that should be included in every working paper. Okay. The name of the preparer, the objective, the date, who reviewed it, the signatures, stuff like that. It's a straightforward bookish knowledge based question. Okay, on previous June attempt, I was only able to score 48 marks due to not enough importance to minor areas. And now this is my second attempt. And this time I had to book the RI exam. I don't know what's RI exam, as all seats are full for CV. So there will be any difficulty? No, there won't be any difficulty. Stay optimistic. But let me tell you, you will pass the exam provided you are going to solve 6 MTQs or OTQs per day starting from tonight. What other professional marks? There are no professional marks in AA. There is only 2 professional marks, such as this covering letter. There are 20 professional marks in AAA, not in AA. Wake up. Okay, any other question? Can you please brief perpetual? Well, see, option number 1, if your year end is 31st December, make a periodic stock count that is on the final count. We call it full and final year end count. But another inventory count system is what we call continuous inventory count system. Will count product A in January, product B in Feb, product C in March, product D in April, product B in June, May, July, August, and the story goes on. Is it too late to start fresh now? Only 50 days. It's better late than never. Attend yesterday's lecture, follow the instructions. You'll be good at risk. But in order to shine, you need to add 3-4 more questions, which I will reveal at the end of the webinar. Similarly, if you want to grasp control systems, I hope you have attended today's lecture. This will give you confidence. Invest time on this. Similarly, attend the 3rd and the 4th day, and things will be pretty okay for you. Okay, Abu Bakar has just asked a question. What are the key content of a covering letter? Well, this is the covering letter in front of you. I just taught it. Where were you? You were using Instagram. I know that. I just taught the covering letter. Covering letter will have the addressee management. Covering letter will end with yours sincerely or faithfully in an audit firm. It will have 3 ingredients. Number 1, this report is for you, and this report is not a comprehensive report, so there could be other deficiencies as well. Second, this report is for your sole use only. Do not share it with anyone else without our consent. Number 3, if you have got any doubts or any concerns, I'm always available. I'm always live. That's it. 3 things. Any other questions? Most welcome, Brianna. Thank you very much. Covering exam kit once is fine. This is the question from Miss Zohra. Well, to be honest, if it comes to OTQs, you should cover both kits twice. As far as section B is concerned, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So maybe 6 questions on risk, but if well invested are enough, maybe 6 questions on control systems. Yeah, 10 questions on substantive. So even if not, one can go for the exam and shine in the exam, even if he or she has not covered the full 1 kit. But that's what I'm saying about section B, not about section A. Saad is saying, can we write senior responsible official rather than designation? Well, try to come up with the name of the designation. Well, you can add someone senior, such as sales manager. How many questions should we practice per day for section B? Well, if you are preparing the question, if you are preparing it for the first time, then 130 mark and 120 mark is enough, because it will require 3-4 hours per question. But if you are good at it, okay, 130 mark and 220 marks. per day, along with many MTQs. So do we learn to test all your learning questions? Well, test your understanding questions are very important. If I I know many examples where the students solved and prepared all the test your understanding questions and they were able to, clear the exam without any problem at all. They were not that, they were not into the exam kit that much. So test your understandings are very good. Sir, any important knowledge based question list? Well, important knowledge based questions list or notes on important knowledge based questions will definitely be available in your WhatsApp group, but you have to hang on till the fourth day. This is it, guys. Thank you very much. Major topic number one, audit risk. We did it on Saturday. Major topic number two, which is control systems, we did it on Sunday. I hate working on Saturdays and Sundays, but this is something unusual. So thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow with the Monday motivation, because we are going to rock and we are going to explore one of the most overhyped, overrated, and the famous topic of the syllabus, which is called substantive procedures. So don't miss tomorrow's lecture, and you have to be really on time, because if you are going to miss the first 10 to 15 minutes, you are going to miss the plot. That tomorrow's session is going to be a movie which you will never be able to understand because you missed the first 10 minutes of it because you were busy buying popcorns or something. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow with the substantive procedures, and if you are good at substantive procedures, you are going to make it anyway. See you. Bye bye. Thank you.